One. All right, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I have the wonderful, amazing Mrs. Karen Beach. What can I say about her other than she is everything? She is my fairy godmother, my mentor. She keeps me sober. She checks me and she makes sure that I'm not leaning on my own understanding, and at the same time that I'm not gaslighting myself. Um, she's so wise and discerning. I can't tell you the number of times that she's um, humiliated me, where to the point in a good way that where I really got to see um, if I wasn't patient, um, I would never have seen the fruits. Um, if I would have kept interfering of what was happening. And so, one of the important lessons I'll start off with is learning to fall on your sword. And I've actually found it such a relief and a blessing to actually say sorry and to own and be responsible, even if I've affected someone unintentionally. Um, and so I'm able to sleep at night thanks to
Mhm.
this wonderful woman. So please welcome her. I want her to share her light. As we know, if you have a light and you're shining, you're not supposed to hide it. So thank you, Karen, for joining us.
It is great to be here. I'm horrified to think that I humiliated you. I'm thinking,
No,
Robert,
not
don't say that. That's a terrible
no,
thing.
no,
And
not in that way. No, not in that
that
way. Not in
I'm
that
thinking,
way.
no, you're wonderful.
No,
Oh my gosh.
not in that
Strike
way.
that. Edit,
No,
edit,
no, not in that way.
redo.
No, never. No. So Karen, can you tell me or tell us some of the things that you're passionate about and how did you find how'd you get there? How'd you own your own passions?
Well, I'm going to start with something you said about saying you're sorry.
Mm,
I just, I guess there have been some really awesome times in my teaching career. Um, but I can think of a lot of failures,
mhm,
and people along the way have motivated me or encouraged me or prayed with me or cried with me and said, you need to go and say you're sorry.
mm,
And I remember it was my second year of teaching, and I don't even remember what I did, but I was at home and one of my roommates came home, and I was a basket case, and she said, I'm taking you to school. It was a basketball game that night.
mm,
You're going to go apologize to those kids. And I was like, no, I'm so embarrassed. I don't want to do this. I, I've blown it. And I did. And she went with me. She prayed with me. We went there. This was at a public high school, and it was a yearbook class, and it was my first year as an
mm,
advisor. I'd never done a yearbook before. The students were mad because they wanted the real teacher. I was this
mm,
flunky,
mm,
and I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't get any training for it, or I
yeah.
didn't go to a yearbook conference. I mean, we were doing deadlines till 2 or 3 in the morning. I mean, I broke every child welfare law. I mean, I'm driving children home at 3 in the morning, like, I'm so sorry, thank you. But I went to the basketball game and I apologized to these
Uh,
kids. And I won't say that, it was magical after that. It was,
mm,
we all got together, Voldemort became a nice guy. But I did see a difference in the class, that
mm,
there was a kind of a begrudging, okay, we're going to try to get along. So I think they appreciated it.
yeah.
But so when you say fall on your sword,
Mm,
that's something I've had to do. I mean, I can think, I don't want to say it on this
yeah.
because,
Yeah.
I don't know who's listening, but
Yeah.
I'm sure there are people out there that I have had to go to and say, you guys, I really blew it. I'm sorry.
Mm,
I hope you'll forgive me.
mm,
And so I think that's something that I guess it's under the category of keep short accounts.
mm,
It's just easier to say, I blew it. Can we move on? I don't want to have it fester. I want a good relationship with people, even if we don't agree on big things, even if we have different viewpoints. I can accept you even if we don't agree on stuff, because you're a human being and you're made in God's image, and I am blessed to know you. I mean, I think of the last years of students that I've had at
mm,
Valley, and I think, oh man, I I just I had the perfect job.
mm, yeah. And they still remember you. They still remember you.
I remember them. I have yearbooks. No, they were, I think it's just so interesting how we get the chance. I mean, yeah, English is important and yeah, writing
Mm,
is great and I love literature and I can talk books, but at the end of the day, it's the people that's
yeah.
what's important, the who are important. Oops, grammatical error there. Don't turn me in.
All right, back to the questions. Passion.
Okay,
What are your
passion.
passions?
Uh, I think it's making connections.
Mm,
I was talking with another teacher the other day about um, when we would do annotations, and one of the annotations, we don't do it the same way. I don't think Valley does it the same way, but just in reading, where you read something and it reminds you of a great movie, a wonderful song, another book. And I love it when students will say, oh, that reminds me of such and such or blah, blah, blah.
mm,
Like I connect that with that scene. Um, oh yeah, that happened in, Harry Potter. That
mm,
happened in, well, didn't we read something about that in Lord of the Flies or Mrs. Beach? Have you seen the new Percy Jackson on Disney Plus? That kind of thing where we just, those connections, I think, make people richer. I can't remember how it goes exactly, but there's a C.S. Lewis quote where he says something about how wise a person is to reread a book. That for a person to say, I'm only going to read a book once, it's like, of course you would read a book a second time, because just like you get together with a dear friend more than once, if you love them, you say, oh, I had coffee with you and I'm never going to see you again. So making
mm,
connections. And I think I love when students have success. Like I'm teaching ESL today. Now I'm teaching at a
mm,
local public library. And I have this one student. Oh, this is funny.
mm,
So this woman, she's about my age, right? Her first language is Spanish, and then she lived in Germany. Well, a million years ago, I took German in high school. And I remember auf Deutsch nur ein bisschen, only a little bit. She'll start talking to me in Spanish and German, thinking I understand. And I'm going, Marina, I don't get anything you're saying. So Tuesday in class, she was very sad.
mm.
It was too hard. She wasn't getting it.
Ah,
Her partner was understanding everything. I mean, we
mm,
just stayed after class for about a half hour, just sitting in our little classroom.
yeah.
And I was trying to say, it's going to be okay. Today we had class, and she came to me afterwards and she goes, Ich verstehe, comprendo, which is I understand, I comprehend. And I said, do you understand? She goes, yes, I understand. So I got some English out of her, and we did it in Spanish and German and English, and it was awesome. So I don't know how else to rate the class. I mean, that's the
Yeah.
administrator's job, but I felt really good that she was, I mean, this sounds very dippy, but
Oh,
she was sad on Tuesday and she was happy on Thursday. I feel like there was a connection there where
yeah.
she understood. And I think I get that way for me too.
Mm,
When, like working with you, Robert,
yeah.
you would give me stuff. Remember when we did the one poem with the Justin Bieber song?
Yeah.
Everybody loved that. It's like it was so cool. They
Yeah.
just thought it was great. And I thought,
Mm,
I just felt like, oh, I'm so privileged. I get
yeah.
to get everybody in the classroom was singing the song. And I thought, this is so fun. So I think you
Mm.
help foster that and the making the connections.
Well, right now I tried that again and I'm already old. It's like already dated. Um, but how'd you get into teaching?
I loved my high school English teacher.
Mm,
I really loved theater, and um, I had a cousin who got into filmmaking, and he's very successful and is super motivated.
mm,
He knew when he was seven or
mm.
eight he was going to be a
Wow.
director. And we were talking one time, and he just was challenging me on things. And I
Mm,
thought, if you want to do theater, you got to move to New York. And I thought, I'm not moving to New York. My family is in California. I love my family.
mm,
And I realized I'm a wimp. I am not competitive enough. I'm not skilled enough. I'm not driven. I don't like rejection. You got to
mm,
have that. And so I thought, well, I really like to read, I like to write, and I like to talk about books. And I think I like people. I kind of went into it the back door. I
Huh.
did it more, I liked the course more than the clients. And then the
Ah,
longer I taught, I realized the clients are what make the course wonderful,
wow.
the students you work with. But my high school English teacher, she could hold attention. She would, her voice would lower.
Mm,
And I can still remember, she taught us the opening to the Canterbury Tales in Middle English. I can still do that. And that's been over 50 years. Um, One prilly with shore sota, the breath of mercha hath pierced to the rota, and bathed every vein in sweet liqueur. Then going folks on pilgrimages. It's like she described it. She goes, well, that's what you do when it's spring. You go on a pilgrimage. And we're reading Chaucer going, yeah, I guess so. It's go on a pilgrimage. So I loved her class. And it was like, it was very ethereal
mm,
and she was very remote. I mean, not at all. I mean, she just, I could never handle what she did. She had her own personality with it.
mm,
But I just thought, this is what I love. I'm
mm.
going to do this.
So I assumed you majored in English?
I did. And I minored in math, majored
Oh,
in English, minored in math.
okay. And where did you attend?
I went to UC Davis.
Ah,
And the reason I minored in math is because Davis is an ag school and you have to
mm,
take a certain amount of science classes to graduate. And everybody at Davis takes chemistry. And any student who knows me knows that chemistry is the bane of my existence. It never made sense to me. No, it's a foreign language. It's like everybody else is sitting there going, oh, yeah. And I'm thinking, reduction occurs at the cathode. Who is the cathode and why does he need to be reduced? Is he a little portly? What's going on? So I I took math classes because I had great math teachers.
mm,
I mean, I think I went into teaching because I love my high school teachers. I had amazing teachers. I don't know if everybody had my experience, but
yeah.
I still remember things. I remember what my anatomy and physiology teacher taught us on how to remember the cranial nerves.
Wow.
I mean, they just were really good teachers. So at Davis, I had to take science, so I took a lot of
Mm,
math. And in the 70s, when I was in college, there was a glut of English teachers. There weren't
mm,
enough jobs.
mm,
So I was also worried about money.
yeah.
And I thought, well, if I'm going to teach, how can I make myself look more hireable?
Mm.
And I thought, if they need a math and an English
Ah,
combination, that's a
okay.
little bit unique.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's unique. Anyway,
it
it
is.
was what I could do. I wasn't going to teach science. Sorry, science people. I leave that for the more intelligent ones. I'm hats
Huh.
off to you, physicists, chemists. You guys are amazing. You
Besides,
speak three languages.
besides your experience in a classroom when you were in high school, what was a pivotal moment in your life that shaped you to who you became right now or who you are right now?
I don't think there was one moment.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was being in Mrs. Nagata's English class. I had the teacher before. I had American Lit junior year and Brit Lit senior year. And I won a trip to go cross country, go to the East Coast, because this men's group said that kids on the West Coast are not attached to their East Coast heritage. So I got
Okay.
to go on this trip free. First time I'd ever been on a plane. And we went to Walden Pond and oh, this is so old. You feel old. I had a camera with a little roll that you would hold the film in. And I took the film out and I got some water from Walden Pond and I brought it back to my American Lit teacher and said, look, Mr. Malecki,
Wow.
it's water from Walden Pond. We read Thoreau. So I think in his class, analyzing poetry,
Mm,
where, oh, there's the words mean something. I mean, that
mm,
sounds so ridiculous, like, well, duh. But I just remember going through Emily Dickinson's
mm,
I'm Nobody. Who are you?
yeah.
Are you nobody
Nobody
too?
too.
There's a pair of us. Don't tell. And I just thought, that poem spoke to me.
Mm,
And then with Mrs. Negata, she had us read Jude the Obscure by Thomas Hardy. And there's this line in Tom and Jude the Obscure where Jude is by the side of the road. And it's this very, oh, sad, sad novel. And it says, and nobody came to help him
mm,
because nobody ever does. And I mean, I'm crying in class going, nobody came. It was, I think that's when I saw that literature was more than
mm,
just stories and maybe
yeah.
I always liked the fluffy romances and things like
Uh,
that, but that there was deeper ideas and connections.
Speaking on like deeper ideas, when you encounter something new or something you don't know, subject matter, or maybe there's a whole bunch of chaos and there's probably different facets to it. How do you solve how do you solve that? Like, or how do you determine what's true?
I think before the internet, I would go to people that I trusted
Mm,
and I would go to other books. I've always been a big believer in teachers and books,
mm,
and I come from a long line of teachers in my family on my mom's side of the family and my dad's side too. Um, nobody made a lot of money, but
yeah.
everybody learned how to read. I think when like saying, I think when I first started trying to figure out who's the Holy Spirit and what does he do in my life, I was in a Bible study and I just remember feeling like, I've been a Christian a long time and I don't understand this.
Hmm.
But the woman who led the study was a brilliant woman and a kind woman. I mean, what a great combination, right? Brilliant and kind. Um, and I just remember spending a lot of time talking with her and not being, it was okay to ask the dippy questions. It was okay to say, I don't really get it. Like, and
Yeah.
everybody else is saying, oh yeah, that makes good sense. And I'm the only one going, I don't understand this. It's like when we first got iPads at Valley and everybody in my group was just, oh, this is so easy, and I'm thinking, I I don't even know if I'm turning this thing on right. I mean, I just thought I'm doomed. I'm going to be the world's worst person here. So certainly going to people.
Mm,
And now when I am reading or I come up with ideas that I don't understand or controversial issues, I try to go like one of my sons has like for politics,
mm,
he likes
yeah.
this site called Left, Right, and Center
Hmm.
because it looks at things from the left, looks from the right, looks from the center. So I try to do that so I'm not just one way. Um, and people whom I love don't agree with me on certain things. I one of the things I do with two of my kids, well, I guess all three at some point, is we'll read a book together.
Mm,
And it's a book that, either I choose or they choose. And then we read it. And it's nothing, we just kind of minor talking about it.
yeah.
The main thing is we did it. And if it's a philosophical book, then we talk about some of the
Yeah.
ideas. If it's literature, we talk about what did we think of this author?
Mm,
And we're always glad that we read it,
yeah.
even if we didn't enjoy it. Like, I'm sorry, all of you, anybody who listens to, who loves podcasting, who listens to, what's his name? Gabriel Marquez, 100 Years of Solitude. That's a book on every top book list. Everybody
Mm.
has to read this book. I couldn't stand it. I mean, I read it, I finished it, but it took 100 years. It's called 100 Years of Solitude. It took me 100 years because there are 100 characters and they all have the same name. I thought I was going to shoot myself. I thought I cannot give somebody a new name for heaven's sake. What is the problem? So yeah, people and books. People, books, a lot of
Mm.
ranting and raving to my sweet husband who puts up with it. Yeah.
In your field, as you're teaching right now, at adult school, is ChatGPT AI an issue?
No, no, today was our first day using we go to a website the school has
Uh-huh.
allowed us to use that
Yeah.
the school's purchased the right so the students can use it at home on their
Mm,
phones or their
okay.
tablets or whatever. It's called Burlington English. And it took, and this is a really small class. I'm in a
Mm.
little tiny community center. The max is 15 and I only have 14 enrolled. So I only had 8 today. So a lot of kids were absent.
Oh,
A lot of
okay.
adults were absent. It took me almost 40 minutes to get everybody
Oh,
username, password, submit, login. Um, how did the recording doesn't work with iPad. It was so we are so far from Chat GPT. We're just, and I think for English, like I get scared if you were talking to me and teaching me Korean words. I had a Korean student for a while. She was wonderful. I thought of you the whole time. Um, but I'll try to, I'll say, how do you say this in Korean? How do you say
Yeah.
it in Ukrainian? How do you say it in Farsi? How do you say it in
Mm.
Chinese? And my accent is horrible. I mean, I am such a California native. Have that broad A. It sounds terrible. And they feel the same way about English, where they're embarrassed. And I say, no, 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 you're doing great. So yeah, Chat GPT, I don't know how teachers do it now.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard some ideas what people do. I told you my nephew teaches at a university in Vermont, and he talked with me a lot about it. So I have some
Yeah.
ideas, but does this sound terrible? I feel
No.
very relieved that
No.
I don't
What
have to do it. It's
you're
like,
I thought you were tempting me to leave and go teach where you're at because I'm like I don't want to deal with it. It's that sounded like heaven.
oh, Robert, they need people. I could send you go to EdJoin and Eastside. It's pays the best in the district. Just you will mess up your social security if you join STRS, so don't join STRS.
Okay.
There's my words of wisdom. Nothing to do with English. My financial wisdom.
Speaking of seeing others go through setbacks, for yourself, dealing with
Mhm.
failures or setbacks, how do you turn that into a stepping stone?
With a lot of crying, many, many, many tears. I agonize over stuff.
Mm,
And I pray and I cry. I mean, I don't know if I ever told any students this,
mm.
but I was dumped in Disneyland by a guy that I thought I was going to marry. And
Oh,
I know, Disneyland, the happiest place in the world. And I was a wreck for about 6, 7 months. And it wasn't until I was in um, a Bible study and the woman was teaching on bitterness. And
mm,
I think sometimes, how do you turn it into a success or how do you to a stepping stone? There has to be a readiness.
yeah.
It's like you can't
Mm,
force a 4 month old to crawl. They're not quite ready. And somebody who's going to be really good in math, you don't give it to a second grader to say, come on, kid, here's an algebra book, hurry up, let's do it. They can't, they're not ready. And I had to process just the grief and the
yeah.
sadness and kind of own up. I think that the part of the failure is where I can come to the point saying, what can I own that I did wrong?
Mm, wow.
And where can I let go somebody else's problem? But if I'm only blaming the other person or the circumstances, that I hope I'm mature enough to say that that's a signal. That
Yeah.
means
Yeah.
I need to deal with my stuff. But I think that is part of it when you can look at the situation and say, okay, let's line it all up. What do I need to own that's my issue here, that I blew it,
Mm,
or that I need to go to somebody and ask forgiveness.
yeah.
I need to, I mean, I just think anytime you can build relationships with people, and it doesn't always work. I mean, I've got some really cool success stories, and I have some where I know that people were upset and I didn't ever get the connection. I tried, but you
Yeah. Yeah.
don't get 100%. It's not like,
Yeah.
when students think, if I work really hard, I'll always get an A. And I go,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, those if then clauses only work in math. If you put in this number, you'll get X. It doesn't work that way in life.
No.
You can do everything right and still, um, there's a car stalled on the freeway ahead of you, and you got to slam on your brakes.
Yeah.
You left on time, you have gas in your car, you're ready to go, you're driving safely, and something is going to happen that do you know about that? Has that
No,
happened to you?
yeah, all the time.
Yes.
That's why I'm concerned when everything's nice and comfortable and stable.
When does that happen? What life do you have?
Too
I
much.
want to come, I want to come to your life. Where do you have a nice stable life all the time?
Oh gosh.
I'm totally impressed.
No, no. There's just yeah, there's moments of time where it's like, this is too nice. Everything's no, everything's too hunky dory.
Oh gosh. I cannot relate to
But
that.
things
There's
happen.
always a problem.
But
Yeah,
things happen. Then things happen.
yeah.
Then things
Things
happen.
happen. That's going to be the title of your next book. Things happen. I think that's a great title. I'll come up with your title. You have to do all the hard work and write the book.
You will be my manager slash producer.
Oh, I will be your cheerleader. Don't you, if you want to make some money, don't ask me to manage it. I will cheer you on. Write that page. Write that page.
Um, what's a piece of advice you give to someone that wanted to get into education?
Oh, wow, that's a great question. Well, this is very what's the word? Financial. Um, if you live in California
Mm,
and you want to teach, make a commitment to either public or private, because if you do both the way I did
mm,
in my career, um, it messes with your retirement. I was talking with a young person who said, well, it's okay, Karen. None of us think we're going to get any Social Security anyway. And I thought, oh man, I hope that's not true. I hope there is something.
mm,
But I think that's just a practical sort of thing to say that I didn't know. I wish I had known that
mm,
going into it. Um, and I think whether you go through a credential program or whether you have a mentorship relationship with someone, get training.
yeah.
I mean, don't show up in the classroom without having had any training. It's like that's to me that's a scary place to be. And I guess the most important thing though is I think to be effective in education, and I'm not talking
Hmm.
administration because I
Yeah.
know nothing about
Yeah.
that. That is, I'm a classroom person.
Yeah.
Um, you have to love your clients, your clientele, your students, and you have to love your course. And if you don't have both of those, you can't do it half-heartedly.
Mm,
It has to
yeah.
be both. If you have only one, like, well, I love this subject. Yeah, I don't really like kids that much. I go, oh, doom. And if you love the kids, but you don't know what you're talking about, that's, I mean,
Mm,
how do we
yeah.
respond when we listen to somebody when, maybe they're talking about something, a little thing that I know something about, and this was funny. This is a Chat GPT story. So I'm reading this article and I just know it has to be Chat GPT. It's a description of Fort Bragg, which is in Northern California. Fort Bragg's a little tiny town
Mm,
and it's by Mendocino. And it has this famous place called Glass Beach,
mm,
where there's all this glass from a nearby glass factory. The glass is washed on shore and it's all been smoothed by the waves, and people go and scavenge there. So I'm reading this article about Fort Bragg, and it starts talking about how it has this large military base. Thinking, what? They're thinking Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And I thought, okay, I, who am arguably
mm.
the worst in geography, like I don't know north, south, east, and west. It's over there.
Yeah.
Um, I know it's wrong. I had a student teacher once where they dumped this poor guy off on me. It was my second year teaching, and I got a student teacher, and I thought, you guys, I don't know what I'm doing. And this guy, and unfortunately, the school taught only grammar. I thought, okay, I'm not the boss.
Mm,
I learned a lot about grammar that year. This guy was teaching it, and he was making mistakes on everything. And I thought, man, if you don't know what an adverb is and you're teaching them, that's not good.
yeah.
You know, talk about nouns, something easier. But so I think you have to know your stuff. And I think I was talking to somebody today, my boss at the library, and she said, I don't think you should have to work at home.
Mm,
And I said, I don't know how else to do it. I mean,
mm.
I'm teaching ESL, which is so much easier than high school
Yeah. Yeah.
English.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I still prep for every class because I don't feel like I
Yeah.
I don't have I don't have it memorized.
Yeah,
I got to prepare.
yeah,
I want to give them something good. So be willing to work after hours.
yeah, yeah. How this is a great transition. So then how with you working so much for prepping and afterwards too, how do you balance your work and personal life?
I have a husband who says you have to retire. Um, I didn't. So I taught for 10 years in high school.
Mm,
And then I got married and we were able to have kids and I taught 20 years at night. Well, night education, adult ed is a lot less. There's not the papers to grade.
mm,
You don't, you're not contacting parents because it is the parents and the students, they vote with their feet. If they don't like your class, they don't come.
mm,
And I was fortunate. My classes were none of my classes got canceled. They were big enough. I had enough students. Um, and it was the easiest. Oh, this is what happened. I had the easiest job in the world. I taught this distance learning class, my last before I came to Valley. And I'm not kidding. My husband would go, "You go to work? You're just taking your purse. What's wrong with you?" I didn't have any books. It was like tutoring for 3 hours.
wow.
And you didn't prep anything. You just, whatever the student had, they brought it to you and you talked about it. And it was all stuff I knew. And I remember, to my shame, Robert, to my
Mm,
shame, I remember praying, saying, "Lord, I think I'm getting a little bored. I think I
yep.
need to be stretched."
Wow.
And then I went to Valley. um, the 12 years I was at Valley, I pretty much I lived on the personal stuff was Friday nights,
Mm,
Saturday days, and summer vacations.
okay. Wow.
Like the weeks that we'd get off, the week in February and the week in Easter, I always did that to grade a set of papers. It was either Frankenstein or
Yeah.
research paper. I'm
Uh,
terrible at that. Talk to Ashley Earp. She's amazing. I never, it's like chemistry. I never figured it out. Somebody knows how to do it. I don't.
um, you read a lot.
Yeah.
Um, so what's a book that has significantly influenced you?
Gosh, it's hard. I, well, this is just a plug for a great book
Mm,
that I just read. I don't know if it significantly influenced me, but
yeah.
it's a newer author,
Oh,
Claire Keegan.
okay.
She's an Irish author and she wrote a book called Foster. And it's like a memoir and
Mm,
it's short and riveting. I'm not kidding. I read the whole thing in one night.
oh,
So it's a great story about family and family dynamics where there's secrets and lies, and you're hearing it through she's not the narrator, but the main child, the foster child,
mm,
her perspective. I think that book, that's one I just read. So I'll do a new one then. And an older one, um, as a Christian, for something that really motivated me in my faith. Um, it was called In God's Underground by Richard Wurmbrand. And he was a Jewish atheist who became a Lutheran pastor in Romania.
well,
And he was in communist prison camps for 14 years. Like his son was born and then he went into a communist prison camp and he saw his son when his son was 16. I mean, 14 years without seeing your kid. Um, and he started an organization that's now called Voice of the Martyrs. I think I read that in high school, and I'm worried about, does anybody like me? Is anybody ever going to ask me out to go on a date? Um, I don't feel attractive. I mean, everything's about me, right? I'm just
yeah,
thinking about
yeah,
myself and reading about people that are
yeah,
tortured for their faith. I just thought that was not in my little world,
yeah.
my little high school bubble that I lived in Walnut Creek. Um, I thought he dealt with very controversial topics like how do we deal with evil in the world, and things I thought that's a great question. how can we believe in God if there's bad stuff that happens? How do we grapple with that? So that one was In God's Underground. That was a great book. And then another one I loved, and this was not written, it wasn't written by a Christian perspective, but this is for people who like feisty women. It's called The Sisters of Sinai. And it's written by, I forget the author's name. I think she's a therapist or some sort. Anyway, these two women, I love history. These two women were twins in, I think they're Scottish,
Mm,
but they live in Great Britain or they live in England. And their dad was very wealthy,
mm,
and their mom died in childbirth. So these two girls grow up, no mom. And the dad says, any language you learn, I will pay for you to go visit that country. So these women are blessed with super brains. They're brilliant, money, so they can do stuff.
yeah.
And then they both marry Oxford professors, either Oxford or Cambridge, and both their husbands die, which is terrible, But they have this workout, they do these exercises. This
Mm,
is like in the 1870s. This is around the time when people are saying, oh, well, the Bible can't be true. It's the whole,
yeah.
I think it's the Q documents and stuff like that. And so they were fearless. Like, I get scared of confrontation. They just said, we're going to go and investigate. And we heard there's this place in Egypt. It was a big thing, Egyptology. We're going to go to Egypt and we're going to see if we can find these. They're called palimpsests. And it's where you would take papyrus and somebody originally wrote something on it, like say scripture is written on it, the Bible's on there. And then someone comes along and either scrapes it off or paints over it and writes something else, you know, cheap novel or whatever is written
Yeah.
on there. And they would find these palimpsests, and you can get to the original stuff. They're called the Codex Sinaiticus and all these amazing stuff. Anyway, they go to the Sinai Peninsula. They find this Orthodox monastery. They find in this big room, like my closet here, that's a
Yeah.
mess, all these papers, and they find gospels. They
Wow.
find it, and they hire a guy to help translate it because it's not Aramaic, it's Syriac,
Oh,
Syriac.
yeah.
Anyway, they find this guy, they have a big fight, they fire him because they have money, remember, and they learn Syriac and they translate it themselves. It's like if I found something in Korean and I got in a fight with you and I said, Robert,
No,
I'm not going to
no,
ask you to
no.
translate it. I'm going to learn Korean myself. Who does that? Anyway, it's the Sisters of Sinai. They are just these incredibly, they weren't afraid to examine their faith critically. And I loved that. I think sometimes I get afraid of that.
Mm,
And that was pivotal to me because it emboldened me to say, ask the hard questions. Don't let your faith get stagnant.
yeah.
Um, so
How do you personally define success? When you're working on something, how do you know enough is enough?
oh,
When do you learn to let go?
I don't know.
Or when do you give yourself a pat on the back? I'm just egging these on.
I know. I don't know. That is a good, I know during COVID,
Mm,
school closed on Friday the 13th, and I had just collected research papers. And I really thought we were coming back to school.
yeah.
I thought, okay, we have 2 weeks off, then it's Easter break, and we're coming back in the middle of April or whenever that was. Yeah, middle of April. And all the younger, wiser people said, are you kidding? We're probably not even coming back next year. And I thought, you're kidding. I mean, I was clueless.
No, no, no. Yeah.
Um, and I kind of said, I guess this is very minimal success. This is not like world
Yeah.
changing. This is me.
Yeah.
I like telling students, I will get your papers graded by this date
Mm,
and doing it on that date. I like honoring my commitments. I like writing it on the board. The day they turn their papers in, I say, here's the agenda, and you will get these on
yeah.
in this time
Yeah.
because I've gone home and I figured out how many days do I have? How many can I get done? Can I get 5 papers done? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday nights, I take off. Saturday, I can do 7 papers, Sunday, 6, and then just add it up. Can I get through? Can I can I make a commitment to my, I feel very tied to their schedules. They might not feel tied to mine at all, and that's fine. I just I feel like they did the hard work. I don't want to. I had a student once tell me I was subbing for a class, and the students had to write something, and the student didn't write it. And I was trying to encourage the student, hey, let's get this done. I know you can do this. And the student looked at me and smiled and said, oh, Mrs. Beach, you don't understand. And I thought, bring it on. And the student said, this teacher never reads our stuff anyway.
Mm.
And that broke my heart. I just thought, you are kidding. You could just write rutabaga 3,000 times on this paper and the teacher wouldn't care. Like
Mm.
that's dishonest. So success for me is honoring commitments. Yeah. I mean, I'd love to say, oh yeah, and I have a house in Hawaii. I don't. But yeah, I think a successful life for me is one where I have been faithful.
Mm.
I think being a faithful person. Yeah.
Um, in the field of education, in regards to ethics, um, what would you say, in regards to implications? Why should someone not cheat and cut corners?
Well, speaking as somebody who has cheated, the guilt really gets to you and you
Mm.
feel bad long after it's over. Um, it sounds like an old sort of saying, but cheating yourself, it really does.
Yeah.
It's like if you tell the truth, you don't have to remember what you said. If you lie, um, I I think I was blessed with a very I tease my husband because he was raised in a faith where they say there's a lot of guilt and he has no guilt and I have all the guilt in the world and I go, that's why God brought us together. I'm the yin to your yang. I complete your guilt. You've been looking for me. I'm your missing piece. Um, I just think I think for the cheating, it's very tempting. I totally understand why somebody wants to do it. Like I
Yeah.
said, I've cheated. I got caught.
Mm.
That's my problem. I'm a bad cheater. The teacher knew right off the bat. It's like she nailed me, man. I was a basket case. I think it's just a question of do you care about the class? Do you want to learn something? I'm motivated by learning. I like like when you're telling me some of the other people you've had on this
Yeah.
podcast, and I know some of them, and I'm thinking,
Yeah.
oh, I would love to know what they're learning.
Mm.
Oh, he's
Yeah.
studying this. Oh, she's doing that. That's so cool. I just like learning. Um, and I think if I'm in a class where I don't like it or it's really boring, I and I've had those classes, certainly.
Yeah.
I would either drop the class
Mm.
or
Yeah.
be happy with not getting a high grade. Because I thought I just can't, I'm not going to gut it out if it's so boring or it's so, unless it was something that was I had to do. But yeah, I think, you're cheating yourself. Um, yeah, it's hard to read. Yeah, Frankenstein is not an easy book. It's a lot more difficult than, Hunger Games or something like that. Nothing against Hunger Games. Hunger Games is very fun. But it's kind of like, I mean, you're a runner, you're an athlete, you work out. There is a satisfaction in putting in the hard work. I think there is something that's cool saying, I did this.
Yeah.
I read this. I mean, like I read Ulysses by James Joyce.
Mm.
I never liked that book. Never. Not one day. But I did read it. I feel like it's that faithfulness thing.
Yeah.
This is a commitment that I'm making to the teacher or I'm making to the students. I don't want to lie to them. I don't want to be
Mm.
dishonest. And that's why, if I blew it, I said something unkind or I misrepresented somebody,
Yeah.
I want to go and make it right because, I'm a human. I'm going to blow it and I don't want to do that. But yeah, I just, it's faithfulness.
Mm,
I want to be faithful to myself, um, to God, to the people with whom I interact. I don't want to lie.
yeah.
I've done that. It didn't work.
I mean, as a woman of your word, and I am a witness to that. For those that have trouble making commitments, what do you recommend in regards to how to stay focused and motivated?
Well, again, I've gotten such good hints from you, from Greg Larson, from Kit Ryko. Um, and I think I, for a little bit this last year, I was working in an accounting firm, which is just hysterical because I told them, I said, you guys, you don't want to hire me. They go, oh, we're desperate. I go, you must be if we just need you to answer the phones. I go, well, one of the things that we talked about was um, how the tax season, because of all the rains last year, the tax season got extended, right? You didn't have to turn your taxes in
Yeah.
April, you could do it in October. And over the years, I started out with very rigid, no, this way or the highway.
Hmm.
And I remember inevitably I had students, there would be a death in the family,
Hmm.
there would be a crisis.
Yeah.
And I got to the point where I thought, why am I? It's like what I said earlier, rethinking a conviction. Is that conviction still valid? And I think that's probably healthy to do, to think things through again. And and some are, and maybe some aren't. But for a student that's struggling
Yeah.
with keeping a commitment, I would encourage the student to go talk to the teacher. Hopefully the teacher's compassionate, and you can say, I mean, I think if I were to go back to full-time teaching now, I'd say, okay, this is when it's due, and I'm building into this. You know, do you have some time? Is how does that work for you?
Mm,
Look at your schedules. I remember one day, I remember how we always did the plot hill assignment,
mm.
and I'm not kidding. I got some amazing plot hills. It's like people were just
Yeah.
way more creative than us.
Uh,
So one day, so all these students are bringing them in, and I would always, put Queens, we are the champion on or something like that, and say, look around at all these cool pictures. I just want you to enjoy it. It just have
yeah.
fun. And this one young student came to me and said, Mrs. Beach, I'm looking at everybody else's here and I know I can do a better job. May I have extra time? And I was so impressed that the student had come to me and
Mm,
been vulnerable. And, I'm not going to get them all corrected in one day anyway. It's going to
yeah.
take
Yeah.
me two
Yeah.
weeks
Yeah.
to get all of these done, to do a good job with them. And so I said, yeah, when do you? And then I love saying, what day do you think? Like, I think this is too long. You think
Yeah.
this is too short. Can we make a compromise? So I think for the student that has a hard time with the commitment is maybe to ask, is it because you just don't want to do it? Is it because you really don't have time because of your life circumstances? I mean, but I get that that's hard for students because I never talked with I love my high school teachers, but I never talked to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I saw a high school teacher in the grocery store once and I thought, she eats. I just thought, oh my gosh, she's a person. So I'm not saying that's easy, but yeah, I would encourage students if you know you're going to have a hard time. Um, I Dumb example. I go to the dentist. I say, I don't do well with x-rays.
Mm, yeah.
I'm going to not be able to do that back tooth x-ray. It's going to hurt me. And I start tensing up.
Mm,
And they're very nice. They go, we'll go as fast as we can. We don't want you freaking out in the dental chair. And I go, thank you. Is that kind of what you mean? Is that what
yeah.
you're thinking?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. 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 What's a misconception people have had about you in the past?
Oh, I don't even want to know. I don't know. I don't know. Um,
That's good if you don't know.
I I I I really, as much as I love my high school English teacher, I'm the antithesis of her. She was very, Well, she was regal. She was
Yeah, yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
She was like other earthly. She was, Galadriel. I'm,
Yeah.
I'm a hobbit.
No,
I'm
no,
like
no, no, no. That's
no, I'm
no,
a
no,
rosy
no,
cotton.
no,
I'm
no,
a
no.
rosy
How
cotton,
you
baby.
described your English teacher, that's how students, I know of your students, that's how they see you. And here, observing, seeing, sorry for interjecting and mansplaining.
No,
But no, no, no,
interject.
no, 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 no. It's like I've been so humbled because I've never been trained. And when I see how thorough your lesson plans are and seeing you in action, seeing Julie in action and everyone else in action, I'm like, oh, this is what good teachers do. You know, you leave no stone unturned. You're very caring. I'm like, oh, I just say, hey, figure it out. You know, someone's
Because that's because you can figure it out. See,
yeah,
the reason
yeah.
I put it down in detail is because that's how my brain thinks. I can't do it. It's think of iPads, think of doing stuff with my phone. I'm on YouTube saying, how do you get this to work? I have a step by
Wow.
step.
Mm.
I don't know, misconception, maybe that I don't like dippy books and dippy shows and silly things,
I
that
think
I
that's
only read
fair.
Shakespeare.
I think that's
Um,
fair. I
you
think
know,
that's
I think knowing, I mean, I try to say, I love, Brit Lit. I
uh,
love watching,
all right.
dippy thing. I maybe, I don't know. I guess that's a really good
Yeah.
question.
Well,
That would be
mhm,
my first thought, is that they
okay.
think that's all you ever do. And I go, are you kidding? I love Spider Solitaire. I play Wordle and Quordle every day. I love those
What's
things.
the last Dippy show that you watched?
Oh, I've started this book 4 times and I have not finished it. And then I'm on Netflix, and it's on Netflix and it's free. I don't have to pay. I don't know, it's on Prime. It's called Belgravia, and it's by Justin Fellows. It's the same guy that wrote Downton Abbey. I'm a sucker for a period Brit thing. And I'm watching this. And now remember, I've not read the book, right?
Yeah.
I've checked it out 4 times, never finished it. I just thought it was boring. I thought, oh, Justin, you are killing me here. You are letting me down tremendously. It's like reading the latest John Grisham, which is the extension of the firm. And I thought, John, the firm was great. The exchange is not, just you're not doing it for me. Um, so I haven't finished Belgravia, but I already figured out, this is spoiler, she's gonna have his baby.
Okay.
And he's gonna be from the lower class, and he's gonna try to get the upper class is
Mhm.
gonna try to put him in their class. So but yeah, that's probably a dippy one, but I liked it. I haven't finished it.
How do you handle disagreement or criticism?
Oh, terribly. Oh, awful, awful. Um, I think it depends on who gives it to me.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
I think if it's somebody where I trust and I can be vulnerable with, usually the person, it's okay. You want dippy? Here's dippy. Mary Poppins. A spoonful of sugar helps the
Mm,
medicine go down. If I have somebody who I know cares about me and they think I'm worth working with, they think you've got skills, I think you need to change this, I'll listen to them.
yeah, yeah.
Now, if I get criticism from leaders because I'm a rule follower, I'll listen, but inside I'm a basket case. Um, or I'm
Yeah,
arguing.
yeah.
Um, so I think I'm learning to confront it more honestly. Like, I got a phone call today, or a person emailed me today and said, please call me.
Mm,
And I thought it was one of my bosses. Turns out it was a family member of one of my students, and the family member speaks more English. And it was a lovely conversation. So my initial thought was, oh no, what did I do now? Am I in trouble? Was I too open? Did I do something
mm,
wrong with the
mm,
students? Um, so I think, but hearing the criticism from somebody who has my back, that I feel like we're on the same team, then I can take it more like, okay, you just want me to, you're trying to help me up my game.
Yeah.
I was in a show once when I was at Davis, and the director, I just knew he was with me. He
Mm,
wanted me to do a great job. And he gave me tons of notes and tons of critiques and saying, I want you to do it this way. I want you to change this. I don't like this. But man, I was like clay. It's like, okay, what do you want me to do? So, come in, coach, I'm ready. Um, but the difference was I had a relationship. So when the criticism comes out of left field, then
mm,
I don't I try to be quiet
yeah, yeah.
and say, what else are you upset about?
Mm,
Um, I did have my, oh gosh, this was like year 7 or 8 of teaching.
mm,
I had a student who had um, was just not doing well.
yeah.
And I met with the tutor, and the tutor is probably my age. I
Mm,
thought, she was an old lady. She was my age. Um, she was just brutal. She was saying,
mm,
this and this and this is wrong and this is wrong. And I said nothing. And she finally looked at me and said, well, do you have anything to say? And I said, I'm not sure you want to listen to me.
mm,
And that changed it.
yeah.
And we figured out a compromise then, but it had been such a one-sided thing that if you're not even going to tell me, I mean, talk as long as you want. I'm not ready for fighting.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the last time I fought with somebody about it.
Mm,
I think during COVID, I had students, we did that Go Formative platform
yeah.
for quizzes, and students would want to come and say, oh, I shouldn't have gotten 2.5 points, Mrs. Beach. I should have gotten 3 points. And I I actually didn't mind those.
Yeah.
I felt like, okay, maybe I'm wrong.
Mm,
Let's
yeah.
there. But I'd say that I'm a work in progress.
Yeah.
Hopefully when I meet Jesus, I will can say, oh yeah, Lord, you've refined me, you've helped me, that my worth isn't in what people think. My worth is in that you love me.
Yeah.
I would love to be that mature. I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet.
Uh, what's something that's happening in your life right now that excites you?
Uh,
Grandchild.
I do love my grandchild. Oh, he's adorable. That is so fun. I just think watching somebody go from infancy to he's walking. It's like nobody else has ever walked before. That's probably, you know, seeing him uh learn how to throw things and smile and laugh. And no, he was out
Yeah,
on their
yeah.
porch the other day picking up a
Oh.
water can and just throwing it down and picking it up and throwing it down and picking it up. And it was a crack up. He was happy for 15 minutes. And I thought, I I miss this, where we don't have our phone or we don't have this, we can just enjoy that. Um in This May, we are flying to Minnesota, and one of my sons is graduating from law school. And okay, when he was in college, he was a chemistry major. I was so excited. I go, somebody in the family is smart. Good. Go make money. And he, after a quarter, said, oh, I hate it. I'm never going to do this. And he studied philosophy. And I thought, honey, what are you going to possibly do with philosophy? And we told him, we said, maybe you should think about law. You're a good
Yeah,
writer, you're a
yeah,
good
yeah.
reader, you're very good at arguing. Think law. Oh no, not going to do law. So 10 years passes. He finishes college, he gets his master's, he's teaching, and he decides, I think I'm going to go to law school. We're sitting there biting our tongue going, I told you so. You would be so good at this. So um, he graduates from law school this May. So we're flying out to Minnesota to see the graduation. So I'm excited. And hopefully some of our other kids will go with us. We said, that's one of the reasons I'm working. I'm working to make airfare money so we can fly out to Minnesota. So I am really excited about that. And you're right. Oh, Robert, you nailed it. The grandson, that's awesome.
Everything. That's everything. What's your approach to learning something new?
I fall apart and say, I can't do it. I'm thinking iPads and cell phones.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I say, okay, where's the YouTube video that shows me how? Um, if it's reading something, I have to parse the sentence. If
Yeah,
it's technology, I have to go back and get some more instruction. I can't, some people are just, they have intuitive ability.
yeah,
I don't. I need a step-by-step thing. And I'm getting better about saying it's okay that there's a glitch. It's okay you don't understand.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, I know really smart people that sometimes say, I don't get this either. And I'm thinking, oh, good, I'm not alone. So I think, like what was going on. Oh, we use Chromebooks, and I've
yeah,
never used Chromebooks. And so it's like, I think just not getting mad, trying to
yeah.
say, get a grip here. It's just learning something new. And, it helps to think you'd learned it before.
Mm,
And I can call Robert, I can call this person, I can call that person and say, hey, do I have to? I think before we started this, I texted you saying, I had
oh,
to reactivate my Zoom account. Do I need to do this? I wasn't sure. So yeah, I think learning something new. And I ask people questions. Some like one of my sons is he says he's an autodidact. He's self-taught, and he's taught
mhm,
himself so much stuff. He's an amazing artist, and he does all these cool things. My daughter too. You know, they're both art people, and they just like to explore. I like to talk to people. I'll say, "Hey, tell me about this. How did you do this?" But reading, I do much more on my own.
what's the question you wish people would ask themselves more often?
Hmm. Is the dippy one. Why do you think it's wrong to read the end of the book first?
Thank
I think
you.
it's great.
Thank you.
Um, that's a dippy one.
No, it's
That's when
not.
people say, no, when people say, you read the end of the book first, and I go, you never use GPS? Hello? You want to know where you're going? Um,
Thank you.
what are you gonna say? You have a good point.
No, no, no.
Uh,
Thank you so much for bringing that up. Because whenever I say I read the end of the book first, they look like they want to like I'm a vampire or Dracula, and they're like they want to give me the cross or something.
no, no. Unclean. Now, I will say this. I didn't do that with the book Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, and I'm very
Mm,
glad I didn't.
mm.
That book is the right book to read front to back.
Oh,
Um, I guess because I have family, well, not so much. I have people I love who don't love Jesus. I guess I would say ask them why they don't. What are their reasons? And um, and not that I can convince them.
mm,
I'm an apologetics person. I can't do that. Um, but I just I don't know. That to me is probably what's most important in my life
yeah,
is my relationship with Christ and how I can become more like him, that I can be more transformed and be a more loving, patient. Would I love to be a more patient person? Yes. I was in traffic today and I thought, Karen, you're acting like you're 12. You know, get with it. You just had a birthday. You're getting really old. Grow up, woman. No, I was being horrible. So, but that would be, I those, and maybe a second dippy question would be, why do you think grammar is bad? Because it's really not. It's really
yeah,
very helpful.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh. How do you see your work impacting your community? Because
I think,
you can't say it hasn't because you changed lives. So
uh,
no
I
copyright.
think that's God. I
Mm,
think, I think I go back to my main idea. I think I have been faithful.
mm,
I don't think I've made everybody happy, but I think I
mm,
have
mm,
been faithful, and that I, it's very important to me to be responsible to if I say I'm going to do something, I do it. I
mm,
don't want to be that person that says, "Oh yeah, I'll call you," and I don't.
mm, mm,
Um, Certainly, I know I could grow in that area as a friend. There's people I think, gosh, I need to be a better friend here. I need to be reaching out. Several friends are going through, have
mm,
cancer and things like that. And I feel like I need to do more there. Should I be bringing you a meal? What can I do to help
mm,
out? Um, but I hope that people know I would like to know that I cared for people, that I was faithful in the responsibilities given to me. Um, that's a great question. I'm sorry that's going to take some time. I got to process that. That's a really great question.
what's an immediate dream or goal that you're currently working towards besides the law school graduation?
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Um, well, I'm going to a wedding and I need to lose 5 pounds before I get there. So I'm weighing in tomorrow at Weight Watchers, the cult that I've belonged to for these many years, and I'm going to go there and say, "Bless me, I have sinned. I have eaten my way through Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's, and now a portly person, I come and I'm really sorry, and I will be good." Um, I think. I think my husband and I would both love it if we could travel more. And we don't do cruises. We don't do, I mean, we just are, we kind of do daycations. Let's
Mm,
go to Monterey. Let's go. There's so many pretty places in California. Um, I think a goal I'd like is for us to travel. And the amazing Miss Earp is in Italy.
yeah.
And I got my passport. It was not easy. Talk about sticking in there. So that is it's another goal. Because Steve's never been to Europe. I went to
Yeah.
Europe a million years ago when I was first teaching. I mean, it was,
Yeah.
that's when I met. That's for another time when I can tell you when I met Rick Steves. So I won't tell you that story now. So you're too young. Do you know who Rick Steves
No,
is?
no.
He's the guy that travels all around Europe. He's got a PBS show.
Huh.
Rick, yeah, yeah. So I met him before he was famous.
Oh,
Google him,
okay.
Steves, Steeves. Yeah, see, he's doing it right now. Robert, you multitasker.
No, I'm just writing
Yeah,
his name down.
yeah, no, he's
Yeah.
good. But I would love for us to do something that's way more dramatic, going out of the country.
Okay.
And we've never done that together. We've gone to Canada, and
Yeah,
that's,
yeah,
very easy. But this would be, and neither of us, I haven't been to, like, this is in Rome, as she
yeah.
lives outside of Rome. I've never been to
Mm,
Rome. I thought, and she's got an olive orchard, and Steve's a horticulturist, and she just wants him to walk around the yard and,
wow.
the acreage, and check out all the plants. And I'm just going to tag along and play with her dog, and, and say, "Yeah, that's really
Yeah.
pretty. I like that plant." But I think she is such a influence in my life and
Mm,
such a support and mentor when I first came to Valley,
yeah.
that I just love her, and I would love to see her in her new home. So probably, because I've never done it, or a long time ago I did it. Doesn't count. It was too long ago. I'd like to go to Italy.
All right, we are down to our last four questions.
Oh gosh, we got to hurry up. It's going too long.
All right.
Snap, snap. I'm talking
Um,
too much.
no, no, no. What is grief?
I think it's the absence of hope. It's where you are so distraught over the circumstances that any positive or light, positive circumstance or positive light or something to alleviate the sadness is eluding you.
Mm,
And so all you can see is the sadness. So I think it's the absence of hope.
what is love?
Now, this is where I need Kit, because Kit has lectured on this so many times, and he's going to go, "Beach, you don't remember this?" And I'm going, "Oh, Kit, how did you say it?" Um, I I can tell you the answers that people say are the right answers.
Mm,
I can quote it. First Corinthians 13, love is patient and kind, not envious. Uh, I think love is sacrifice. It's the idea, greater love hath no man than this, that he lay down his life for someone. Like we were talking about falling on your sword or saying you're sorry.
Mm,
It's
yeah.
not, you don't do that out of anger or resentment or manipulation. If I do this, then you'll do this. But it's saying, okay, we are at an impasse in our relationship here,
Mm,
and I value you. And because I believe you have value and you matter, then I'm going to sacrifice. That giving in is a sign of love to you, and it's greater than me wanting to be right. Yeah, sacrifice.
what is the meaning of life?
Uh, well, the Westminster Catechism says this is why people major in English, so you don't have to answer questions, you just give quotes. Um, the meaning of life is to love God and enjoy Him forever. Um, and I do kind of like that as an answer. Um, and I also like, I believe it's in Screw Tape Letters where Wormwood's the young devil and Screwtape's the senior devil. And Screwtape is trying to convince Wormwood how to lure this human to our father below. So it's like a C.S. Lewis describes hell like a very nasty business place where everybody's in a suit and they're all just ready to stab you in the back.
Mm,
And he's trying to convince him, Screwtape is trying to convince Wormwood to think, make your guy that you don't want to become a Christian, make him think that it's really bad to go for a walk in the woods,
mm,
that it's somehow not spiritual. And so I think that idea of, you know, the meaning of life is to see clearly what how God views me and how he views others. And yeah, there's tons of other stuff. You got to clean your house, you got to make dinner, you got to go grocery shopping, you got to pay your bills. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff in life, but seeing how we fit in the story of the rescuer
mm.
and how we fit in with the other people in need of being rescued, the rest of planet Earth, to me that's where it kind of comes together. How do I fit in his scheme of things? And it's not so much how I fit in, but how do I see him? How do I see God?
Right. Last but not least, what advice would you give to young people, especially high school students, especially seniors?
Mm. About anything? Well, this is again from experience. And no, I'm not going to tell you my cheating stories. There were more than one, to my shame. I would say avoid bitterness.
Mm,
Um, I just know from my own experience of being bitter and resentful, it hurts you. It hurts you, and it's just not worth it. Um, certainly process it, talk about it, write it down, journal it, do all the things you do to get it out there. But um, holding on to it is just, it really hurts you. And I don't know where people are in their relationships with others. And I, not that it means forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. I mean, there might be a really dangerous person in your life that you forgive that person, but you don't reconcile with them because it takes two people to reconcile. And if that other person isn't doing it, then, but letting go of any hatred or bitterness. I mean, certainly I look at politics and I think everybody's so mad at each other. I just, I just am so sad about it. And I don't want to be that person that's, standing out screaming, hating people.
mm,
Um,
yeah.
and I guess, but I think usually the hate and the bitterness is more personal, like a one-on-one thing.
Yeah.
Someone has rejected you, someone has betrayed you. I mean, betrayal is just so deadly. Um, and I'm such an ignorant person about social media. I don't know what people, I mean, I've had students come and show me stuff that somebody posted about them on social media, and I'm thinking, this is horrible. Hi, you guys, this is really going to hurt you. You know, how many times are you going to hit yourself with a hammer? So I guess just bitterness, avoid bitterness. It's not worth it. And if you
Karen.
can get a good job and make some money, that's great too.
Oh,
Pay your bills, brush your teeth. No. Um,
and with that being said, thank you so much, Karen, for sharing so much of your wisdom, your experience, being vulnerable, being honest. Um, Thank you. I mean, I can't say thank you enough, Karen, for all the things outside of what people are hearing today. Um,
oh, Robert, I feel the same way. Looking at you on this Zoom meeting, I'm so thankful that I got a chance to work with you. I mean, I'm so glad, so glad my husband said I could, that I didn't retire before then. I feel like when I think of people who stretch and encourage us and motivate us and just make us, that are delightful, you're that person. So thank you.
Karen, we'll probably talk some other time. Maybe we'll try to have you on later on this year.
Well, we'll see. I don't know if I have anything else to say. I've been such a motor mouth now. It's like, oh, I don't
No,
know.
no. All right, Karen. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thanks,
Bye.
Robert. Bye.